Good morning on what is a mild grey and cloudy day. It is Tuesday, the 29th of August. I've got a nice hot cup of tea. And a box to continue unboxing. What I'm going to pull out of here is this Into the Cess and Citadel. This is I can't tell what it is from just looking at it. It's very pink. Although it says on the back, "This city eats people. Never forget that." So, not knowing what it is, we get into a contents page. And essentially, it says, system neutral. What this means: the following book is written in the fashion of system neutral. It means the majority of the book is written to be immediately useful by most RPG systems, but with some tweaks and so on. And it has some recommended systems there, which includes Dungeon Core Classics, the Vanilla game, Old School Essentials, Troika, Black Hack, Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, Mertborge, Pathfinder. So, you know, if you've got one of those systems, you're looking for a major setting, like city setting to which to explore, then this is an option. So we've got a glossary there with the content, essentially all the terms they use, and then an introduction. So essentially this is about a sprawling metropolis built on the bones of a city long forgotten, as every bit as colourful and chaotic and confusing as it is deadly unforgiving. It is ruled from the glistening spires above, the nobles, demigods made flesh, whose tyrannical whims ebb and flow like bloody tides across the city. As tall as the city towers above, so too does it descend below, where dark and terrible things roil with hunger beneath the cobblestone streets. What is the Cess and the Citadel? It is a place where the natural order of the world has been replaced with something cruel and artificial, some torn from the earth to build towers. Stone torn from the earth to build towers, fields ripped asunder to lay roads, and the abstract power of coin rules absolute. So this can sort of like, easily fit into sort of like a lot of different settings. So then we've got the introduction, and we get into rules of the street, and you kind of have this oddity of sort of like the relative roughness of this artwork versus sort of like the other styles. So you've got publicly available artwork there, and you slip over the page, and for this section, which is rules of the street, and we've got full colour artwork there. So there's a bit of a contrast there too. And then we have so we've got a guide to things like travelling the city, shortcuts and hazards, laid out in sort of clear fashion to make it easier. So, for example, roof hopping, you're rolling dexterity or intelligence to avoid the danger, and the hazards might be a nasty fall or go through the window. A flock of birds might appear, and so on. It does the same thing for street running and sewer creeping, and then we deal with traffic and crowds in the same manner. Cobblestone encounters, so encounters in the streets, including mugged, and then living on the streets. So we have a look at roughing it and dumpster diving, which is a very modern way of looking at a city, because normally you don't look at it from sort of like that angle of of what it's like to live on the streets per se. Rules for reputation on the streets, other hazards and disasters that, apart from sort of like the ones already encountered in street hopping, roof hopping, and disasters that can beset the streets, cobblestone changes that can occur, essentially poverty, hunger, and the cruel the rulers were on the mind, and soul of common folk, such pain forces out ill conditions. The following is a series of fatal changes and mutations brought on by the crushing powers of the city that can be used as a random chart of traits, injuries, or with the devoured city devoured by the city rules. So, anytime a character is victimized by the city, there's a chance they acquire a change. So, just, whether that's they're mugged, they're mortally wounded, losing all the wealth, a month without shelter, surviving an encounter with a noble, or similar abomination, and they are changed. But also the cobblestones can grant boons, and there are other dangers like diseases. You've got a list of diseases that might befall the player characters, and then beasts to be met on the cobblestones. So a quick guide to reading the stat blocks, and then we're into the actual descriptions of the different creatures like the brick tick, the cobblestone crab, the court spider, and these are all evocative of a city. Section on demons, a dire pigeon, fist of the city. These are really helping to bring the city alive and its dangers. Garbage shambler, master of the procession, leading the procession through the city, whatever that profession is. And then got various animals to be found in the city as well. And then we've got to build a city. So essentially this is talking about the city adventure, why set it in a city, using wealth as a means of safety and risk, reactive, not random dangers, and a guide to running a city with all advice and help for the game master. Setting up relationships between the factions of the city, and essentially we have the core kind of relationship diagram is those who struggle, those who follow, those who rule. And we've also got a list of factions and relationships options there for the game master to generate. And then discussion of actual factions in the city. So we start off with anarchists and artists. Never far away from each other. Colleges, crime syndicates, criminal gangs, cults, enforcers, grand guilds, high guilds, lesser guilds, local businesses, mage cabals, neighborhood watches, noble families. So lots and lots of factions that the game master can bring into play and get the player characters involved in. Occult circles, overlords, political parties, and religious institutions. And then we get on to generating the city itself. And it's essentially just sort of like randomly laying out the locations on a hex grid, and rolling for features and issues. And they're further explained. And then generating a building, how to do that, and this includes things like the house block. So you're just doing this by sort of almost like the roll of the dice, and then you can see how that sort of like is laid out. You are using sort of like the dice to put up the core structure of the building. But then you sort of like you imagine the actual facade of the house, and its dilapidated roofs and grubby windows on top. So, table of building rooms and atmospheres within of the buildings themselves. So that can be infested, heap, haunted, decrepit, hideouts and upgraded rooms. So pigeon coop, library, panic room, escape hatch. Street generator, NPC generator, shop generator. So what this all means is that you can your game master can have a copy of Into the Cess and Citadel, and then another game master can have a copy of Into the Cess and Citadel, and neither game will be exactly quite the same. And of course, because this is an old school Renaissance style role-playing game, you have a table for I Search the Bodies, because it's obligatory. And then you've got the same similar thing for the treasures of the cobblestones. And we go on to the Undercity. And look at its particular locations of the Undercity and the Undercrawl, where you will find alley whelps. How to explore the Undercity, and it's you're doing the similar kind of thing as you were with the buildings and streets and neighbourhoods, but you're putting underneath, you're sliding underneath what you've already generated, Undercity landmarks. And these are a bit more described in detail. They're more, in a sense, prescribed within the setting. It's just where you set them and in relationship to what, as the game master, as you create your Cess and Citadel. So, so you've got things like a slime forest, the vents, a yawning lake, and more. And then we have Undercity encounters, like the Waking Wall, the Leopardap, Silver Walrus, Grime Bender, and then there's a chance of encountering mutants. Undercity goods and services. So it's its own world. And we've got tables of trinkets and treasures. And then we soar far above the city, up to the spires. I was talking about the spire as a dungeon, basically a palace crawl in the sky. The nobles to be found there and what they want. The nature of exploring the spires and, essentially potentially setting off an alarm and then generating the spires, but essentially, like the previous procedures, you're laying this on top of your city. And then we have spire rooms and features. And I love the artwork in here. You've got the idea of sort of like the sort of like the nerdy world, sort of like sneaking in to this fabulous spire with all its paintings on the walls. Then you've got a sort of similar kind of cutaway there. Spire encounter table, and then various, actually more detailed characters, so like the false scion, the noble, these fully detailed NPCs and encounters, the Vault Sphinx, and you spot an aristocrat table, treasures to be found, and that could be, multitudes. And then we move on to quite a radical change here, because we move on to the cultivist district, and it's green. So it's all been red up to this point. But we have this radical change, essentially promising a paradise of growth. essentially what we have is plant activists, radical vegetarians, as it were. And we've got cultivist loops and trinkets table, followed by cultivist people and places. And almost this cultivist section didn't need to be in this book, in a way. You could have run this book without it. You've got enough information and material in there to run a strange, weird city. The cultivist is just, you know, it's a case of, you know, throwing in a radical faction in there with monsters like the Verdant Fury and the animated Urn. And we've got tables of encounters. And then, just the same thing, we just nicely switch again to another location, another district, and this is the Foundry district. So this is work of work and creation and pollution and so on. It's done in blue. And it's doing a similar thing as with the cultivists. So what you've got is a section of essentially radical industrialists. And where you can meet boar eels and slag men, furnace cats and orjaxes, and even dreadnoughts. I don't think you want to meet one of those. Table of Foundry encounters. And then we have the Archivist district. This is done in sort of like a brown, sort of gold colour, or bronze, I think. Let's call it bronze. See, you've already got pre-built locations. Within the city that you can easily drop in. And then we have, you know, of course, archivist peoples and places, and things like the Grimoire Mummy, illuminated archivists, Stack Panther, and Scuttle Imp. And these are fantastic creations, really imaginative, you know, just really helping to bring these locations to life and make them stand out from one another. And then artifacts and spells, so not another location, but things to be found in the city, like the Altar of the Worm or the Doctorate of Many Things. Or the Slug Charmer perfume on the Jealous Zweihander. Cobblestone spells like, let's have a look, Ashen Familiar, Braggart's Blades, Brick by Brick, Bread Finder, Just a Pinch, and Goals of Bloodcrete. So again, plenty of imagination here. You know, you'll get your, essentially your cobblestone wizard or sorcerer interested. 100 locations, brings the book to a close. And then we have have advice for running a city. So making your city, preparing city adventures. So you've got basic advice for the game master, and then basically suggestions on total conversion, running a city completely within a campaign within the city. Got a world map to help you create the boundaries of your city, and you have things, sheets and aids to help you do that. So yeah, and then we have a further list of further reading there, and a nice sign off from the authors. So yeah, that is Into the Cess and Citadel, and this is published by Feral Indie Studio and Wet Ink Games. That's a fantastic looking resource and setting. I think it's going to be really interesting to explore that in play. And you can tell some fantastic stories with that. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, then please do click on the like button down below. And if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post that. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me out here with a box containing a book or game, which I'll unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do click on the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing Nook, and we'll be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.